Today's deep listening topic is self-image and the origin of fear. It's important to understand where fears surface from. Our being is bigger than our mind and body, but before we have experienced oneness with all conscious beings, we feel a separation from others that creates a separate sense of self called the ego. The ego is part of us, but to understand its nature, it helps to visualize it separately. So visualize it as your inner child, for example. You can even give it a name. And although the ego is a product of our mind, let's visualize it having its own sense of self that it needs to sustain. But because it's driven by the fear of survival, it has certain abilities and limitations. It sustains itself by creating and solving conflicts. It has the ability to evaluate how well or not well it deals with those conflicts by internalizing the judgment of others and creating an image of self upon it. At the same time, the ego has a strong limitation to experience anything beyond itself and always feels the need to protect, prove, and attack. It filters every experience we have through those needs to assure its survival. The self-image in itself is extremely fragile, as is the product of the mind, and it only feeds on conflicts. But it's also powerful in running our behavior patterns and perceptions of ourselves and others. For example, the fear of making mistakes comes from projecting our own judgmental nature of the ego to others around us. We fear what others might think of us based on how we think about ourselves. We simply cannot experience the true judgment of another person, as it's always a projection of our own mind. Overall, it's not needed to go to the root of every problem or fear we have, but to rather become aware of the nature of the ego. To understand that through the lens of the ego, our perception will always be distorted. The key here is to take distance from our mind, from our stream of thoughts, to have the ability to experience fear without identifying with the ego. By connecting to our body and experiencing the energy that connects us to all. So thank you for listening.